Hello, hello, everyone. Just letting a few more people in here from the waiting room. It is 5 after the hour, so let me get started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Greg Wood. I am co-founder and COO of the CFO Alliance. For those of you that are new to the CFO Alliance, we are a peer community built exclusively for finance leaders from emerging and middle market enterprises. Everything we do is grounded in one principle: real conversations with real people and people that actually do the work. So no theory, no vendor-driven agendas, no sugarcoating. Our members come together to share what is working, what is not, and what they wish they had known before, so others can make better decisions with more confidence. So today's session fits squarely into that mission. Our webinar today is focused on FP&A modernization. Say that 10 times fast. Specifically how CFOs can diagnose where they are today, make confident upfront decisions, execute modernization roadmaps, and that balance technology, team capabilities, and real-world constraints. I'm excited to welcome two of our CFO Alliance members who will have a part in today's webinar. Richard Harem, who's the head of finance at RapidSOS, and Jordan Nadell, CFO of ALLCITY Networks. Both of them happen to be current customers of our sponsor today, which is Abacum. But I will hand this over to Richard and ask him to introduce himself after I give you just a little bit of housekeeping rules. So this is a 60-minute session for one CPE credit. If you are here to receive a CPE credit, we ask that you participate in the polling questions. Even if you're not here for the CPE credits, please participate in the polling questions. We have 3 throughout this. I think you'll find that the benchmarking and the data that comes through those questions will be beneficial to you and to your other peers on the call today. You will receive as a follow-up a copy of that CPE certificate, and it'll also be posted to your online profile too on the CFO Alliance website. So with that, we will get started, and I will ask Richard to come off mute and introduce yourself.
Hey there. Good to meet everybody, and thank you for having me today. Richard Harem, my background is in working on finance and operations teams, scaling up companies from the startup stage. The current company I'm at, RapidSOS, we're a leader in safety tech platform, emergency response. I've been here almost 3 years now. In that time, we've 5x'd ARR through a combination of both acquisitions. We've done 4 acquisitions as well as a lot of rapid organic growth. Our main focus has been on how do we build platforms and systems that can really sustain us from the early stages all the way through IPO.
Great. Awesome. Well, welcome. And Jordan, if you want to come off mute and introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Jordan Nadell. I am CFO of ALLCITY Network. It is a startup company who we do sports digital media content in 5 markets: Denver, Phoenix, Chicago, Philly, and Dallas. My career, I started at Ernst & Young for a few years, worked at Comcast for 26 years in a variety of accounting and finance roles, then went to BuzzFeed while they went public, the SPAC transaction, and then joined ALLCITY as CFO a little more than a year ago. So I feel like I've got a pretty well-rounded Big 4, big company, medium company, and then small company. So we are in between our Series B and Series C. The things I'm going through here at ALLCITY are nothing like I've ever dealt with before, but absolutely having a blast. I'm a Philadelphia sports fan, so working in the industry, despite the Eagles' challenges and Philadelphia sports team challenges, really enjoy it, and really have been a big fan of Abacum since we started using it a few months ago.
Thanks, Jordan. I just want to be clear. Yes, these guys are both customers of Abacum. Abacum is sponsoring this, but this is not to be a product demo. This is to be a real conversation back and forth as to how, not only how these guys use the tool, but what they're doing to modernize their FP&A process. Ben Lair is going to facilitate this session and walk us through that. And I know he's got some questions. So Ben, I'll hand it over to you. I'll moderate the chat. So if anyone has any questions they want to put into the chat or have any conversations there, happy to monitor that. And we'll also be running some polling questions. So let's get going.
All right. Thanks, Greg. Good to be here with everybody today. I'm Ben Lair. I'm the founder of First Water Finance. I lead a team of embedded finance partners that deploy into emerging and mid-market businesses. And we stand up, optimize, and sustain FP&A capabilities in the pursuit of better growth financing and transaction outcomes. First Water is a primary partner in the CFO Alliance. I work really closely with the leadership team, really to ensure that the community programming, the thought leadership, and the benchmarking that we do is not only relevant, but also directly ties to your action and execution in your businesses and, quite frankly, in your careers. And that's why we're here today to talk a little bit about FP&A modernization. So before we get started, Greg, I think it'd be great to throw up the first polling question just to see where people are thinking about FP&A in their organizations right now and what hurts the most.
All right. You can see that, right?
Yep.
Okay. What is the biggest current FP&A pain points? Please pick one.
So Greg, feel free to close that whenever you're ready, and we'll address it when it pops up on the screen.
Right.
Just to keep us moving here. We're talking about FP&A modernization, but I don't think that has a crystal clear definition. So the first question I wanted to ask to Jordan and Richard and Ryan from Abacum is, in one sentence, what is FP&A modernization to you? And I'll round out the group and move us on here. And before you start, we got the polling questions up here. Ooh, data foundation. Data foundation, number one. Not a surprise. Everybody thinking about AI, everybody thinking about how they're going to leverage technology, all starts from that foundation. That probably would have been our guess as the number one. And that's a pain point for a lot of people. So good thing about being in the community, you're not alone. And this is great because it helps us sort of focus in and tailor these dialogues specific to that. So Jordan, I'm going to start with you. One sentence on what is FP&A modernization, and for anybody else who wants to chime in, throw a sentence in the chat, and we'll log it all, and we'll share it afterwards. And so we'll get to if anything, we're going to get to a really good definition of what FP&A modernization is. Jordan?
FP&A modernization to me is real-time push button reporting, not relying on Excel spreadsheets exclusively.
Okay. Richard?
For me, it's real-time, frictionless data insights that help inform our stakeholders in their strategic decision-making processes.
Ryan, I bet you're going to agree. So what do you have to add to that?
I agree. I think like enabling the CFO to be the chief business performance officer, right? So seeing everything in one place, which Jordan and Richard kind of just hit the nail on the head for a couple use cases there, right?
Okay, well, I'm a framework thinker, so I think about it like a spectrum. So it's sort of the spectrum that you move upon when you're activating core capabilities, streamlining workflows, scaling processes, and ultimately having rapid adaptability to changes in the business. So I heard the word real time a couple times. But I just want everybody to know, if you're adding a capability in, or you're improving a process, you're modernizing. So I think that we don't want to get too far out into the gold medal of push button real time. If you're improving, you are modernizing. So we'll keep it positive on that front. And so one of the things that I wanted to start with is Jordan and Richard, you're both users of Abacum. You've deployed dedicated FP&A software into your business. And one of the things that we've been talking about within the community, and we've recently gotten a small group of members together to talk about forecasting improvement and the whole where do you start, what questions to ask. We're going to be publishing member resources into the community. So that's my plug on membership today. Fastest way to 100x ROI your membership in the CFO Alliance community is to get access to resources like that lead to meaningful improvements and push you along the way of modernization. And so I wanted to start with sort of stepping back. So before each of you made that decision, could you give us just a little overview of sort of what your FP&A function landscape looked like from a team and processes perspective, and sort of what was the big catalyst for you to then make the move towards assessing and then selecting FP&A software? Richard, let me start with you.
Yeah, so it started when I first joined the company, and rapidly growing, 100+% a year. Kind of the end goal was how do we prepare for IPO? And we were a lot of spreadsheets. And through acquisitions, we didn't fully integrate the systems in. So in order to get to a single source of truth, you had to really go to 3 different systems, pull it all in one spreadsheet. And then also there was a lot of disjointedness around how we did hierarchies. So what were even the dimensions we want to report on and the hierarchies. And I think within each spreadsheet, whoever owned it, back then we had 2.5 people, they really knew their spreadsheets well for their part of business. But as soon as we consolidated them, it was nobody knew what the other person was doing. And so it was really, we have to bring this into one place where we're all managing from the same data structure, from the same common set of assumptions. And if I needed to pull a report, I shouldn't have to go to 3 or 4 different spreadsheets. And so the theory was, I think back in the day, we had finance people who really liked being heroes. They liked being the ones to solve the problem, that if somebody wants data, oh man, they're coming to me, I'm doing an awesome job, I'm really answering their questions. To how do we don't need heroes. We need people who can get in, see their own dashboards, the end users have access to all that. And it was really just apparent the multiple spreadsheets was not going to do it.
Okay, thank you. What about you, Jordan?
So our journey, I started again about a year ago. We use QuickBooks, we use Rippling for payroll, we have some other systems we use, and it was very disjointed, about where we pull the information from. Probably spending, if there's FP&A, you want to spend as much of your time analyzing data. We were spending our majority of the time on compiling data. So probably 80% of the time was pulling together QuickBook reports and downloading and sorting and filtering and et cetera. And now it's the other way around. Probably 20% of the time is on pulling together reports and 80% on analyzing. So it's been a complete game changer for us. We pull in data from QuickBooks and Rippling and some audience data and other data. So it's now the single source of truth. We're pointing everybody into Abacum, and each week and each month we put more and more data in here, and we're kind of fully we're all in for 2026. We're kind of dabbling in third quarter, and then started to bring in QuickBooks, and then again each passing week and month we put in more data. So very happy with it, and it's really been a complete game changer in terms of where I'm able to spend my time and my team's time.
Hey, Ben, there was a couple people in the chat that defined their FP&A modernization as software consolidation. I think I heard it from both Jordan and Richard about the integration piece. So I would ask them before we get started as to how important was it to select a tool that integrated with your current ERP system?
For me, it was a non-starter. If you didn't connect with the ERP system, I kind of view that as a small data warehouse for us. We didn't want to integrate in with Databricks. That's a very expensive proposition. And also you have to have a different skill set on there. And so knowing that, for us, it was NetSuite was where we were housing all of our data. It was a non-starter if you didn't have it.
Right. Same here. I mean, it was a must-have. And we're a team of 3 in our company. So my controller was doing some research on several tools. And again, being able to connect was absolutely a must-have. And then when I heard the endorsement that CFO was a big fan of Abacum, that was kind of the icing on the cake. So very, very pleased with our choice.
So thanks, Jordan. You both mentioned systems. There were some other comments about software and consolidation. Greg, I think it'd be great to run the second polling question now, just to get a snapshot of how everybody here what their FP&A tech stack looks like. So this is one, select all that apply in terms of what you're using in your organizations currently. And while you're doing that, we're gonna spend some time talking about team here. I think that's really important. Jordan, you had said you had a team of three. While everybody's answering this, Richard, what is sort of your team look like just in terms of count and type?
Yeah, on the FP&A side, I'd call it 2.5, and on the accounting side, 6 or 7.
Okay. Greg, how we doing on that poll?
Getting to my cutoff point. So I try to get to at least 80% engagement. Almost there.
Okay, so this is interesting. So we're about 30%, either of the group using either a FP&A module within their ERP or a standalone platform, like an Abacum. And that's pretty interesting because I think if we ask, I feel like that's probably doubled over the last 2 years. I think that we're seeing more adoption of those. And so to both of you, Richard and Jordan, and Richard, we'll start with you because you just talked about how you would need different skill sets, different team skills, potentially even different roles to pursue some of these capabilities in the absence of dedicated technology. Could you both share a little bit about how you thought about that in your process of thinking about technology and sort of why you fell on either side of the fence between sort of upgrading a team or throwing more team horsepower at it versus investing in technology?
So for me, it was the evolution of how did we get where we needed to be. As a scaling business, it seems like the first year I was here, we had one focus. The second year, another focus. This last year, another focus, and then now the focus has changed. And so, it's really hard from a data perspective if you're always shifting where you're going and what you're really analyzing. And so getting into something like Databricks, BI over that, which is our long-term goal of where we're going, it just takes time and effort. And if you're constantly changing the goalpost, it's a lot of time of people getting in and redoing the systems. And so it's critical that whatever we put it into was something that I could get in there myself and program all the logic, work with all the data connections, and really do a lot of data cleanup. We could have invested in that team, but I think it would have been just a lot of continually changing and adapting. And so for us, it was we will build it out through building it out in a system like Abacum. We'll learn all of the things we need to know to get it into a Databricks, to get it into a Power BI. And so that way, when the time is ready, which is where we're about right now, we'll be much more informed and prepared for that transition. Also, many of y'all are probably like me. Every spare dollar burn we have, it has to be dedicated to the product or sales team. And if it does not directly generate ARR, we just do not have the resources to spend on it. And so it was also a little bit of a resource constraint problem for us.
And Jordan, what about you?
Same. I mean, for us, hiring another body was not even an option. I mean, we're a 3-person team that's a combined accounting and FP&A. There's not like a separate team for accounting. So we knew that we had to have a tool. Bringing another resource wasn't an option. The price was very moderate, and we just wanted to make sure that it was something that was easy to use. Now, I'm not doing the data connections and programming. It's my controller is in the weeds and really build out all the reports. Was able to do most of them on his own without much assistance from Abacum. So, and he's just a regular accounting guy. I mean, it's not like he's got a very advanced degree in data mining or anything. So he's been able to create reports. Able to kind of show him what I want built, and I have some kind of a basic learning of Abacum, but it was moderately priced and not even there was really no other choice on the staffing side.
So you're both.
Hey,
go
Ben,
ahead, Greg.
Quick question. And I'll take this polling question down in a second, but seeing that 83% of them are still using Excel, I think when we get to our Q3 roundtable series and we talk about financial planning, that we do like dry January and you got to go the whole quarter without you touching an Excel spreadsheet. How about that?
Yeah, that'd be a good one because I think that number from prior research was closer to 95 or 96%. So having only 83% still using Excel or Google Sheets is a meaningful difference because I think and I know this about Richard, having spent time with him, that he is 100% out of Excel in his FP&A function. And we'll ask Ryan later a little bit about that interplay about most organizations are kind of working them side by side, that they're not trying to kind of kick Excel out of the party, but they need all these things to be able to function together and in harmony so that when you're looking at one thing here versus over here in Excel, that everybody's looking at the same numbers and you have that discipline around the source of truth and all those sorts of things. So there are pathways out of Excel, but what we found is that very few organizations are trying to completely remove it from all things FP&A, given that it's still a highly flexible canvas and kind of the language of FP&A for so many people.
And Ben, let me just jump in real quick. Unfortunately, I've had to go back on my no Excel, and it comes not from our core business. It comes from as we've acquired companies. It is a significant process getting them on. So I'm still trying to get back to that point, but we did have to revert a little bit after acquiring.
Okay, you didn't have to share that. We appreciate the transparency and we appreciate the transparency and honesty. I've had you up on a pedestal there,
Right. We could have left you with the gold star.
In terms of being able to bring it all into one place. And I did hear that Zuckerberg at Meta did kick Excel out of Meta. For all things in the different comments from the finance team there, but there are people out there, some of which are much smarter than us, that think that there is ways to go there. So I appreciate the honesty, Richard. But it's usually, at least then, it's the result of good things like acquisitions that are hopefully great for the business, and over time you'll be able to kind of get it integrated even further. So I wanted for both of you, like you're both more than a year out, like you've been in the platform. I wanted you to sort of give us a reality check on sort of thinking back to what you thought it was going to be, what was more difficult, what did you get or not get that you expected? Could you each share with us sort of one experience, sort of looking back to the decision process that you went through before investing in technology, and something more than a year later that was just different than what you expected?
I can start. So for us, it's not been a year. It's only been 3 months,
Okay.
3 or 4 months since we started. And I was in a crawl, walk, run mindset, which is let's just do QuickBooks first, and then let's get our headcount data from Rippling, and then other data. And so I was planning on doing the budget mostly in Excel and kind of Abacom kind of on the sidelines. It was the other way around. It was really Abacom was in the forefront. Excel was kind of on the sidelines, kind of as a sanity check, make sure nothing, went haywire. But it's been better than I expected, easier to use. Our CEO, who's pretty hands-on, is in Abacom regularly. Our salespeople, so it's been easy for everybody. And again, I'm very happy with the decision, and we'll be continuing. We're well beyond a crawl, and we're in between a run and a sprint, a walk and a sprint.
Great. Richard, what about you?
I think the biggest thing for me is how quickly the technology, the back end's changing. I'll just give a quick aside. After we signed up for Abacom, we actually we almost fired them. And as we were going through the implementation phase, there were just some things that we needed the software to do, and their software couldn't natively do it. But after having a conversation with them, they said, "Give us a month, let us fix it. If not, we'll let you out of your contract then." But one of the things I really appreciate about them is they really did focus on our technology needs to evolve, our platform needs to evolve. Sure enough, a month later, they had fixed it all. And so I don't think when we were first going through the process, we really focused on vetting the different platforms on how quickly they're evolving. to make sure that we can keep up with the most modern day types of things. So how many different APIs do you have available to pull in different data sources? And so we missed that, but luckily we did it up with Abacum where they were advancing in that. But it's something now with all of our platforms, we do vet out much more closely.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So Abacum, like a lot of these platforms, can have its own language inside of it, how you set up measures, how you build reporting, and things like that. And Richard, you said that you had done some of that work during your implementation. Jordan, you said your controller had spent some time there. In terms of thinking through adoption and change management and just the path of making kind of optimal use of these sort of tools, could you share a little bit about how you thought about the team upskilling and the training required in order to actually make use of these tools so that they didn't just sit there on the shelf gathering dust?
Start with it.
Sorry, I should have prompted one of you. Jordan, go ahead.
I mean, fortunately, my controller was pretty hands-on and really was passionate about launching. He had done research on other tools, and he was pretty dead set on making this work. And so he learned much of it on his own. I think when as part of the when you sign up for this software for the system, you can get some training. We actually didn't need too much. He was able to figure out much of it on his own. So it's pretty user friendly. I mean, you do need some sort of a general knowledge of data and tables and dimensions and whatnot. But it's not rocket science. I've learned some of the basics, and just in lack of time, I'm sure I'll be able to create some reports on my own. But I've been able to modify some things and do some of the basic stuff. So it's very user friendly, and we make sure that our users are CEO and salespeople, it's not a good use of their time, generally speaking, for them to be building their own reports. They kind of give us guidance, but there are one or two that are pretty hands-on that will probably kind of hand over the keys so that they can create some of their own reports. But for the most part, it's going to run out of our three-person finance team.
Well, that's awesome if you've got people outside of finance that are building things inside of the platform. Richard, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, for us, I think there's two components. So number one, there's the back end model. Abacum was at a different place, 2.5 years ago when we really started to integrate with them. Back then it was a little more complex. Luckily, they did have a team who onboarded us. One of the things that we said is we have to build it in Excel before we can build it in Abacum. And really what that was let's make sure we get the logic right. Let's make sure all the data is flowing through. And they were really good at helping us take those Excel examples and actually build them out in the platform. So I wasn't doing much building when we first went onto the platform, but since then, all of the new improvements they've had, especially making a lot of the more complex formulas simple for us. Also, we have a better understanding of the structure where sometimes you can do a simple formula in Excel. You may have to do 2 or 3 steps in Abacum. And so on the back end, it's really only us building. They set us up with a good kind of foundation, and then now we know how to copy different variables and pull them in. Then on the space side of that, that's always been pretty straightforward. We continue to see the improvements on it. In full transparency, we're still pushing them. I would like to make it easier for some of our end users to be able to get in and build reports in a more simple way. I'd like to see more pivot table-like behavior where they can just drag and drop and do it real-time live without having to get in edit tables. But we are starting to see a few more people. We've just recently brought in the go-to-market team as well as our Fort Dev team into Abacum, and they're now building their own tables. So definitely seeing a lot of improvements, getting easier, but I still think they have some ways to go. They're still, from my perspective, one of the best platforms out there, but look forward to all the improvements they're going to be putting into it.
I just want to call out what I think is a little the funny thing where we look at these tools and we want to get certain things out of Excel, but when we get in them, we want things to look like and function like Excel. And a lot of the platforms have built those interfaces so that it feels a little bit like less friction from what everybody knows really well. I wanted to ask you both, and I have a question for Ryan on this front after you each answer this question. You both have small teams, so you have concentrated knowledge around the platform and how it's structured and how it works and how things are built. Could you share a little bit about how you think about that risk of sort of your knowledge leader on the FP&A technology and something potentially happening and steps like back to the decision that you made to invest, but sort of how you think about that risk now within your organizations? Richard, I'll start with you.
Can you maybe ask that a slightly different way so I make sure I answer it the right way?
Yeah, so a lot of their lean teams with maybe one, two, max three FP&A people are charged with maintaining and optimizing platforms like this. And so that ends up oftentimes resulting in sort of a knowledge concentration risk or a super user that knows the most about the ins and outs of the platform. And that creates a natural risk in the business and the function. So I was just curious about how you thought about that when making the decision and anything you might be doing now to sort of distribute that risk across the board.
Okay, yeah, I think it wasn't something we thought about when we made the decision. I think there were a lot of things we've learned in hindsight, and that was definitely one of them. I think for us it was this is going to be easy. We'll always have people on our team trained on it. The reality is the people, we've had some turnover as we've grown. Every stage of business, I think, who got you to where you are now is not who's going to get you to where you need to be. And so for us, one of the things in the beginning that we did have a dedicated person from Abacum who was there for that first year, really along the journey and helped us with it. Now we do a lot of cross training. So as I talked about, we brought in our go-to-market team, our corp dev team. We probably have 7 or 8 analysts now who are trained in the system. So if somebody goes on vacation, if somebody does, churn off our team, we have other people who are prepared to do that. 2 years ago, it was not that way. And everything really popped down to essentially me to do it because the person who did integrate for us did actually leave, got a great promotion, another company. He had to take it. It was something he couldn't refuse, and it set us back a lot. And so I think it's something we have to think about now is how do we do the cross training?
So Jordan, I want you to weigh in on that as well, but I'm going to add an additional question to you is that if you did have turnover on your team related to sort of the users of Abacum, would you change what you recruit for and sort of skills that you look for in new team additions that would give you the confidence that somebody would be adaptable and be able to sort of get up to speed very quickly?
So in terms of staffing, I come from a different perspective. I was spoiled at Comcast where there's hundreds or thousands of finance people. And when I joined ALLCITY with 150 employees and $15 million or so in revenue, we had one controller and that was it. There's nobody else. We didn't have HR, legal, IT, office manager. So I was like, what happens if he gets hit by a car? Who's going to run payroll? Who's going to do billing? So now that it's a team of 3, myself, a controller and accounting manager, I feel like it's a luxury. I do feel like, so the accounting manager is not as familiar with Abacum as our controller, but he is familiar, as am I to some degree. So do I worry? I mean, my peace of mind is much better now than it was a year ago when I saw that it was a one-person shop doing everybody and doing everything. So, having 3 of us and then having some of our operations people getting familiar with it and wanting to build a report, that's certainly comforting. And knowing that Abacum is there if we have, if we're in a bind or if the controller leaves unexpectedly, we would get through. In terms of if we bring in more people, which I would love to, but probably don't have the funds for it. Yes, I would definitely want to bring in somebody who's not just a debits and credits person, but somebody who is familiar with systems. Our business is relatively straightforward, so I don't need somebody who's a whiz in technical accounting. It's more about strong FP&A skills is what we're looking for, and somebody who knows how to use systems, whether it be Abacum or similar tools. I would definitely look for somebody with that skill set.
Well, thank you. I mean, Ryan, I want to make sure we take advantage of having you here, not just from the perspective of Abacum, but as a proxy for all FP&A software. It would be awesome. We'd love to know how you guys are thinking about supporting adoption and sort of diffusing that knowledge risk across businesses, and sort of what's changed, I think, in the last couple of years, as particularly Abigam has changed significantly with your growth. And I'm just curious sort of how you guys have thought about it in the product, and how you think about it in supporting your customers to sort of diffuse that risk within the organizations.
Yeah, for sure. And I've been in SaaS for like 20 years, and almost half of that's been in FP&A software. So I've seen a lot of different solutions. And one of the reasons I came here is because I think there's definitely a move to more of a modern kind of AI native tech for FP&A, and it makes it easier for people to pick it up when it looks modern, it's easier to use, it's collaborative, you can comment, it integrates seamlessly with other systems. Also, it's, the one main point earlier was just connecting to data. I saw a comment in the channel too, hey, we still got to kind of massage the data to make sure it's accurate or good before you pull it into a system. I think having a system set up should have an ETL layer inside of it. So when you're bringing all the data in, you just want it to flow in. It shouldn't be a black box. And modern solutions should have an actual space, an ETL layer where you have the ability to quickly transform the data, standardize the dimensions across all your different data sets, as well as have a layer of AI on top of that to always be cleaning your data for you and making sure that you don't have 10 different Microsofts showing up with different spellings, right? And you name it, all the different challenges you have with data. And then once you can solve that, then you can start executing on like some of the core use cases in FP&A and start to expand out to some of the RevOps stuff. And it's really cool to hear how Richard has the whole finance team getting in there. You've got your leads, your MQLs, your SQOs, your close one opportunities that people can kind of collaborate around. And so I think that's I think that's the expectation that people can have, and what can help drive better adoption is making sure that the data is in there, it's clean and it's accurate, and it should be easy to get it there. And then you have a system that creates something that non-finance users are not going to get scared of, and they feel like they can interact with. And you can control, like in the beginning, like making it really simple for me to come in and use it, right? And just input the information you want, and maybe I can expand off of there and be one of Richard's power users that gets to create my own reports at some point, right?
Yeah, that makes total sense. I wanted to spend a couple minutes talking with you, Jordan and Richard, about how you think about future flexibility and optionality when you have a platform like this in place. And Richard, I don't know if the acquisitions that you've done since bringing Abacum in were part of the known roadmap, or if those were opportunistic things that come up. But you clearly had to change workflows and even bring in some Excel in order to work with those. How do you think about future changes to the business, whether that's data, technology, acquisitions, transaction readiness, whatever the case may be, when you have a platform like this and you don't necessarily know every possible permutation of how the platform is going to apply? And so how do you think about that? And quite frankly, what do you do about that, knowing that change is coming in some shape or form down the road?
Yeah, I wish we could predict M&A. It's always opportunistic, and it's always more than we project for. I think for us, it's getting that architecture in the background. And so what we've now moved to is essentially, we're in a SaaS company, so it's easier to do this. But every new company is brought onto our platform, and so it's we really start with Ramp. That's where we do all of our credit card management, APs. It flows into NetSuite. We use Zone Billing for all of our revenue recognition. We try to get them in Salesforce CPQ, Revenue Cloud. So that we get them around that consistent data. And so really what we've tried to do is, instead of fitting the system to each new company we get, it's saying each new company is going to have to adopt our platform. And so what we have is that initial phase where we have to clean their data. We have to, bring it in. We try to bring in 3 years of historicals from before we bought them. And so that's where the Excel comes in. How do you massage it? A lot of times these are companies that may not even be using GAAP, but we're having to do some of those conversions for them. But we do have the flexibility to adapt to their system, but really we've said we're not going to adapt our technology to yours. We're going to fit you into ours. And it makes it really easy to do. Somebody asked in the side chat about how do you do as your company evolves? They think about data in a different way. That's one of the things I really like about Abacum is you have your different dimensions. And so you have a level 1, level 2, you can roll it up in different ways. And so as it changes, you can just add those different levels on. So that's really helped us with our M&A. We can continue to produce reporting for them in their native way they like to see it. But then we just map that to the same dimensions that we use for our reporting.
Jordan, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we're in 5 markets and hopefully launching another one soon. We will make sure that the next market is heavily reliant on Abacum. And for us, we have pretty much 3 primary lines of revenue. 1 is advertising revenue from our YouTube shows, 2 is a membership business, and 3 is a merchandise business, hence the PHLY shirt that I'm wearing here. So giving our talent on air, our merchandise people, membership people, access to quick data is pretty important. So if we have a show on for the Eagles or Anthony Gargano or whatever it is, we want to be able to see quickly how's it performing, how many views did we get, how many diehards subscribers did we sign up, how many shirts did we sell. So being able to have, I think the next generation for us is really building reports and kind of pushing out reports to our end users so they can see near real time how's their show performing. There are certain things that we can do, kind of on the fly where we see, okay, this social media message is getting a lot of audience. So the quicker we're able to provide data to our operating people, the better. And again, that can bring in money almost immediately. So that's really the goal for me is use it for the next market, but also be able to give data to our various revenue lines.
Well, let me ask you one follow-up question to that. I think with one of the myths around FP&A technology is that it can somehow free organizations from the need to be able to develop their own processes and workflows that support around this, such as what Richard was talking about needing to do things outside. I'm very curious, Jordan, have you seen any changes through this process of the training or capabilities that your team needs to optimize the platform in the future or to push other things alongside it as something comes in like an acquisition that either because they have their own sort of weird thing and it can't just seamlessly integrate, or in Richard's case, they decide not to sort of port it in that way. Have you seen or made any changes in terms of the skills that you need on your team while working with a platform like Abacum?
I mean, as of right now, we're not in acquisition mode. I mean, fast forward a year or two, who knows? But for me, it's convincing the people in operations that Abacum is really a great tool. So we get YouTube audience data that people pull down from YouTube, they put into Google Sheets file. It's this massive file, and we're now getting that data put into Abacum. So everybody is comfortable, including myself, with the way I've been doing it. So Excel or Google Sheets, that was the way we did it. But when we say we can get that data put into Abacum and we can sort and filter this data however you want and do it much quicker and without manual intervention, without the error prone, fat fingering, an extra zero or something. So it's really, we've made some great progress over the last month or two showing the value of Abacum. So thus far, kind of everybody's on board. The people who get the audience data, the merchandise people, the membership data, as we show them what we're able to do, and we can slice and dice data by team, by league, by market, by whatever it is, they see the value pretty quickly. So it's now trying to import that data and really figure out a way to give them push button reporting.
Hey, Ben, with 10 minutes left, we produced a report, Project Greenlight, at the end of the year, which talked about how companies are just sometimes paralyzed with, in this case, inaccurate data or data that's just not clean enough to put into a system and stuff like that. What are some good ways to go about in tackling that, and which may look like boiling the ocean to kind of get the data in a central source of truth, or however we want to get it into a state of usability for a system like this or any system.
Sure. I'm gonna go back to Richard on this team question, but I think I can answer that one, Greg, which is everybody needs a box. There has to be, if you're going to have a central place, you have to have a box. And so for some people, it might be in a software platform like an Abacum. For others, it might be able to live fully in their ERP. Others may stand up their own data warehouses if they have the capabilities to do that. And I would say that the thing that might get lost more often than not is it's not just the data, it's the processes around the data. So if I've got all my data in places, but people are getting things at different time, or they're pulling from different areas and they're not actually utilizing that central source of truth, then the whole thing breaks down. So not only do we need that central box from a data perspective, but we need that discipline and alignment from a process perspective so that we're all actually using the central source of truth in the right way. And Richard, I think that's going back to that question about the team, particularly because your team has grown since you've brought in an FP&A platform. What have you focused on from their capabilities perspective to ensure that you're able to, one, just continue utilizing the platform the way that you have been, but also to optimize it further?
Yeah, let me go back and kind of double down on what you said, Ben, from the perspective of number one, you have a source of truth. It doesn't matter where it's at. I think the biggest mistake, probably that we made in the journey since I've been here, is what I call the culture of data. And, we really have to intentionally set, not only with our team, but with all the other teams, why the data is important, why this consistency is important, and why eliminating pollution is there. And I think we did not start early enough with involving other teams in that process to really help them understand that, we're pulling in HubSpot from marketing, we're pulling in Salesforce from the sales team, we're pulling in Jira data from the engineering team, people team, it is Bamboo HR. We did not help them understand why, the vision of where it was all going. But I think now here we are, almost 3 years later, I think they get it. And now we have a cross-functional team that meets on a regular basis to discuss all this. But I definitely think everything you talked about, I'm seconding that. I think from how my team has changed, I think before it was people who were good in spreadsheets, people who understood financial principles, a little bit to what Jordan was kind of relaying to. Now I'm more focused on, do you understand data? Do you understand how to use data, how to quickly arrive at insights, how to get in and move with speed? I think the old FP&A person was, I have my monthly process at the first of the month, I close it out, I report for ARR, then by the second week I report that. I don't have to repeat that again until next month. That does not cut it anymore. You have to have speed, and you have to have clarity for the people when you report it. So a lot more of that data, almost data scientists that we're looking for, and less of traditional accounting finance people.
Yeah, it's interesting because it seems a lot of the world is very focused on real time when it comes to data and insights, but that also fails to recognize that the bulk of what FP&A has to produce is not based on real time data, right? We need to make sure that the numbers in our monthly reporting package equal what went into the board deck, equals what the CEO is looking at in his Power BI dashboard. So we've kind of used this term controlled time and sort of managing the discipline around the snapshotting of data to make sure it's aligned and that everybody comes off that. And that's a whole discipline in and of itself in terms of how you integrate systems, and how and when analysis and work is actually done. And technology by itself doesn't just solve for that. But maybe it does, because I'm about to ask Ryan about the future here. But before I get there, Greg, why don't we pull up the final poll question and just get a snapshot of sort of how everybody on the webinar is thinking about FP&A technology in their future here.
And just to be clear, this is not for us to come back and sell you. This is actually, and how we operate with all of our benchmarking data is for you to understand where your peers are at, so you can either feel validated or challenged into some of your decision making.
So while we're getting that one done, Greg, because I know we're coming up close to the top of the hour here, I'm about to ask Ryan about sort of where all that venture capital money is going in terms of the product roadmap and all the cool things that they're doing besides making memes and spending marketing dollars. But before that, Jordan, Richard, I'm gonna put you on the spot with Ryan here. Is that can you tell us one thing in the platform that you want to see it be able to do more of in the future? Because I'm sure that's not just an Abacum question, but it's just a general FP&A software question.
I'm not sure offhand what mobile usage there is. When we log in, it's all from my laptop. So it could be that there's services available that we're not using. But again, since we're so data heavy and looking for real-time information, it would be great to have some reports that are easy to access from a mobile phone.
Richard, what about you? I'll address the poll here in a minute.
Yeah, I'll share one or two. One of the things I love about them is we often talk with the product team and we're very vocal about what we want to see. I think that the biggest changes we're pushing on that I'm excited to see is a lot of the visualization. We're finding that a lot of the ways currently it's showed doesn't work for some users in the team. And so how do we show better graphing, more dynamic tables, and really getting to more of that, weekly data versus monthly data.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's good. So get ready, Ryan, because I'm teeing you up here, and it's either a layup or I'm going to get hit through the screen. So we'll see. We'll see on your answer. But this poll is super interesting because this shows 54% of you think that it's at least important, if not critical. And I think 2 years ago that number was less than 20%. So there's clearly been a meaningful shift over the last couple of years in terms of the role that organizations see this as part of their FP&A roadmap. So that's a big data point, Ryan. So now tell us what is happening, what is changing, what do people have to look forward to in not only Abacum but these sort of products. We can talk a little bit about AI, but don't make it all AI, and then we'll tie things off.
Yeah, so I have the luxury of obviously working with awesome partners like the CFO Alliance, but also with a ton of I'd say consulting firms that have implemented systems for decades and chosen Abacum as their kind of next gen platform. So I hear product feedback all the time, and some of the key things are aligned with what Richard was talking about, making just some of the functionality, just the way the tables work for certain people in the organization easier that are inputting budgets so they can see their actuals while they're putting their budget in. And the team we're a product first company and we're always looking for that feedback. And I think that's what I love about our product team. There's no ego. They just want to make things better and get the information and try to make it as better as fast as possible. So just improving the usability, which I already think that we have one of the best usabilities, but continuing to improve that based off of feedback, and then adding in, just the investment on top of like with AI, because there's a lot more that can be done. We already have probably the most capabilities in the market, but AI is rapidly changing, and how can we continue to leverage that to do more? We just released this really cool feature that will be highlighted next week in a release too, that makes scenario planning extremely rapid too. And so very innovative from an AI perspective, and then always thinking about how to make it better for users to leverage the platform and collaborate internally across the organization.
All right. Well, Jordan, Richard, we got 2 minutes. So I want one piece of wisdom for anybody who's sort of on this track, and it could be something you didn't know that you now know, or something that was super critical to the success of the deployment that you've been able to execute on. So give us one tidbit before we head off here.
Don't have analysis paralysis. Just do it. You're not going to be able to figure out everything, but it's worth the risk. And we didn't look back, so you can't plan for everything, but just take the plunge and do it.
Richard, what about you?
I'll add to that. Once you make the plunge, actually take time to architect the system and get it right up front, because it's often hard to change it down the road.
Yeah, very good. Well, I'll close this out here since we've got 1 minute left. Thank you. Thank you, Ben, for facilitating this. Thank you, Jordan, Richard, Abacum. Thank you. Abacum is one of our partners. We have very few partners in the CFO Alliance. If you want to check any of them out, they are on our partner page on the website. There are 7, 8 partners in total. All of our partners, we have actually negotiated preferred pricing and a service team that's going to service you better too. So contact me, contact Sam Lambui. If you guys want an introduction, we're happy to make those introductions. We hope to see you soon at our upcoming roundtable forums, our in-person roundtables. They are all posted for the entire year out on our website under the events page. Please register early so we can plan on you being there. And if you have any questions, please get back to us. But we're going to tackle things like this as peers together and answer those questions. So I thank you all for coming today. Have a great, wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Enjoy your day.